So we're back down in the Board Bia tent, and we're back down with Eleanor Murphy. Eleanor, tell us a little bit about the farmer feedback report that Board Bia are undertaking.
Yeah, sure. So the new farmer feedback report is generated, I suppose, from a need to use the data that we've been collecting from the farmers as part of the quality assurance schemes and facilitate, I suppose, better communication back to them and demonstrate how the data that they provide to us at the time of audit and the use of that data in the carbon footprinting modelling and how that data facilitates our, I suppose, analysis of their carbon footprinting, analysis of trends and how their farm activities influence the emissions on their farm. The idea, I suppose, really is that under the new climate action plan, everybody has to be doing their part to engage with everyone in the industry to help, I guess, lower the emissions of agriculture. And we've seen this as an opportunity to communicate to farmers, I guess, best available advice on how to do that, whether it's improving efficiency or changing management practices.
So what's the process, Eleanor? How do you go about it, or is there a couple of pillars that we follow?
Well, I suppose there's 3 stages that we collect the data, we run the carbon footprint, and then we release the letters back out to them with their certification letters at the end of the audit. So the letter itself will have about 6 different categories. So we'll cover something like the carbon footprint of the farm, so that's the ratio of greenhouse gas emissions on the farm to the product output. So for dairy, we'd be looking at kgs of CO2 per kg of fat and protein corrected milk. And then we break down where the different greenhouse gas emissions are occurring on the farm. So that will go from whether it's animal digestion from the eating of the grass mainly, into the manure management, fertilizer management, then imported forages and feed, and then general emissions from electricity and lighting, etc. Then we break down, I suppose, nutrient management. This would be related about when the farmers are applying manure and at what time of the year and at what method. So this will influence how nitrogen-related emissions are occurring on the farm. Grassland management, obviously we're heavily reliant on our pasture-based system, so communicating what their turnout and housing date is, what their grazing season is, what their housing season is, and then how they compare to farms of a similar size, just to let them know how they're benchmarked and I guess if they can see that they can make improvements. We also communicate their grass-fed criteria, so Board Bia are currently working on a dairy processing grass-fed standard, so we'll be able to communicate back to the farmers how their diet changes from grass to silage throughout the year and what proportion of that diet is from concentrates. We've also layered it over with their own milk production data, so the farmers will be able to see when their milk production starts to increase in the spring, how it's also associated with the increase of grass availability and growth and intake. And it really just demonstrates, I suppose, the grass growth curve and that spring-based system. And then the final aspect then that we cover is farm health and safety. So in the beef and dairy audits, we have health and safety criteria. So they're scored on how they answered those questions, and if they're non-compliant in certain health and safety criteria, they'll be just given some mitigation and best advice on how to avoid health and safety issues on the farm.
That's great, Eleanor. I just want to pull you back to the nutrient management side and the fertiliser. So what are we talking about? Are we talking about switching maybe from can to protected urea or that type of stuff?
Absolutely, yeah. So we get fertiliser data from the farmers at the time of audit, and they tell us what they're using and how much they use and at what times. So a lot of the feedback we'd give on improving nutrient management, I suppose, is the importance of soil testing, liming, and also the potential of switching from straight can or straight urea and can to treated urea. So how treated urea works is it has an ammonia or a urea inhibitor, and it reduces the amount of ammonia that's emitted when fertiliser is applied to the ground.
And then on the same topic again, the low emission slurry spread, and that's going to come a key thing as well?
Absolutely. So in our model, if a farmer tells us that he's using a splash plate, that's associated with higher emissions due to the nature of how the manure is applied, whereas if the farmer uses a trailing shoe, that's associated with lower emissions because it's applied straight into the soil surface. So the model will account for that if they're using it. So if a farmer gets his letter and this year he's using a splash plate and next year he changes to a trailing shoe, he'll see an associated emission change from that. And the type of advice exactly is about promoting the use of trailing shoe where possible and applicable, I suppose. Yeah.
So Eleanor, when all the data is collected, the farmer gets a letter and he's able to, you know what I mean, read the results there and make better management decisions then.
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose the way we've structured the letter actually is that we feed back what their current assessment is, and we've shown how they've changed since their last assessment. As well as that, we've compared them to farms of a similar size or system type. So straight away when the farmer sees his letter, he sees where he is now, he sees how he's changed in the past and where he stands against his peers. I suppose in the future we'd like to also include where they are compared to maybe the top 10% in those categories, so something to aim for, I suppose, in the future.
Yeah. And Eleanor, you were out on Shane O'Loughlin's farm as well. How was the farmer feedback from that about the whole initiative?
Yeah, I think it was very positive. This is a new venture, I suppose, for the type of communication that Board BIA would have, and there seemed to be a lot of interest. We got a few questions. It's always very positive, and a lot of interest on when the letter is going to be coming out. So the letter is going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks after we just finish demonstrating it here and make sure there's no bugs or tweaks in it to be made.
And there's been plenty of interest at the Ploughing Championships as well?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want, a farmer can come in here today and we can demonstrate what their letter is to them. We have a facility here on the iPads to bring it up and demonstrate to them and talk it through, so they're more comfortable with it when they receive it in the post.
Great stuff, Eleanor. Thanks for chatting to us, and the very best of luck with the rest of the Ploughing Championships.
Thanks very much. Okay.